Hello, everyone. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. I'm here today with Nathan Moore. He's going to tell you all about his company and how he can help us. Take it away, Nathan.
Hello, Linda. Hello, everybody. As you said, my name is Nathan Moore, and I'm the president of Agape Planning Partners. And Agape Planning Partners is a boutique wealth management firm. And what we focus on and specialize in is comprehensive financial planning, really focusing on mindset, money mindset, why we do what we do, what are the reasons for what we do financially before we work on the specifics of how we do it. So we work with clients throughout the United States, primarily in California, but 6 other states. Working with businesses and individuals on making sure that you can accomplish your financial goals and not be sidetracked by all the messages and the marketing messages that are coming in and trying to separate us from our dollars.
Oh, very important. And part of that is getting into a home. You're going to have to pay someone to live. It might as well be paying you to live. So you would probably be a wonderful asset on trying to get some of our first-time home buyers ready.
Yeah, we tell people all the time, you should be asking yourself what every dollar is doing for you. And if it's not doing something for you, then you have to question whether or not it should be in your rotation in your life. I can go to a restaurant and I can spend money on a nice deal and that dollar, provided me with sustenance, or I can be paying for a magazine subscription that I never look at. That dollar is not doing anything for me. So you mentioned real estate, I could be renting and that dollar is providing me temporary shelter, or I can be purchasing a home and that will provide permanent shelter, but also provide an asset that can help increase my net worth and increase my retirement goal, because I now have something that's either going to be paid off at some point in the future, or whether it's paid off and I stay there, or I can sell it and use that to fund my retirement if I plan on moving. Like we see quite a few clients who moved from Northern California and the Bay Area to the Central California and the coast and use the equity in their home to buy something else and then retire on. So you want to make sure those dollars are working for you.
Definitely. We even see a lot of downsizing just here in the area. Okay. They raise their family out here. The kids are all out of the house. They've had these big, beautiful homes. Equity's increased. Kids are all out. They decide, oh, let's use some of that equity to fund our retirement. So they downsize into something a little more affordable, and they have all that equity a lot of times left over once they downsize. So
yeah, Linda, and I think that's a great strategy. I love it when people think about that in advance, right? I think about one of my clients who purposely bought a larger, more valuable home, knowing that at 55 they would be selling it and downsizing, and they expected greater appreciation in that home than any other neighborhood they would have bought into. So if you know that's your goal 10, 15, 20 years down the line, it'll probably change the strategy of what you buy to make sure you're buying something that's going to give you the greatest potential for increase.
Mm-hmm. And more importantly, where you come in, you help some of these buyers that maybe don't have a full mental grasp on, how to save money for a goal, whether it be a house or whether it be another goal. Maybe it's, maybe they need a car or something. Maybe, our end result is we all need a retirement, because at some point our bodies are going to say, we're not doing this anymore. But, there's things along the way too, though, that you need in order to make a fulfilling life. And that's where you come in, is to kind of guide a lot of them and say, okay, here, let's focus on your goal, on what it is that, the big picture here. Let's take a look at that, and let's kind of probably get down to the nitty gritty on how to get to those goals for them, if, it's something really new to people.
Yeah, the first challenge is helping us understand what our goals are, because oftentimes we're just going on autopilot based on what society says we should have, where we should live, what we should drive, and not really deciding if those things are important to us. And then when we actually need to make our purchase decisions, we're buying on impulse, or we're buying on one of the 3,000 to 4,000 marketing messages we see every single day subconsciously, rather than acting on what's important. We get clients that come in here and their income is more than enough to meet their monthly expenses, yet they find a shortfall because they're usually buying things that are working against their goal versus working along with their goal. I take it old school. I'm a little bit older than most people that are in the world today. And I remember the old school banks where you would drop all the coins in and the quarters would go in the quarter slot, the dimes in the dime slot automatically just fall right into place. That's really how we should be doing our financial planning is we set our goals, and when that dollar comes in, those dollars go right into the place where they should be. So if I know that buying a home is my goal and I need a certain down payment, that when my paycheck comes in, that dollar should go to the down payment fund before it goes to the weekend in the mountains fund. And if it's funded that down payment fund,
I see that Starbucks fund, you know, quite large for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't have that habit, but it's like, I'm always hearing about whatever clients or whatever. Oh, I had to go get my Starbucks, and I'm thinking, wow, $7 cup of coffee.
You know, I unfortunately do have that habit, but I have financial goals. And so here's my morning frap that I made here at my office for 68 cents versus spending $7 at a coffee house. Now, when I go to the coffee house, I don't feel as guilty doing it because my goal is funded and I'm only going 1 or 2 days per week versus 7 days per week. And I'm still sitting in somebody's basement, you know, catching a bus and not driving a car or living in a house. So there's nothing wrong with those enjoyable moments as long as the goal is taken care of first. Unfortunately, far too often we flip it around. We have those enjoyable moments and then we look up and there's too much month left at the end of the money. And now we can't fund our goals.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Well, so what's kind of your process when you maybe intake a new client, or what are we kind of looking for?
Yeah, so the very first thing we do is we really just like to sit down and spend 1 to 2 meetings talking about the money mindset, because how you were raised about money will influence almost every decision you make about money. Well, for myself, I grew up in a single parent household. My mother did a phenomenal job raising me, in my opinion, but it was a perpetual struggle because she just didn't have a lot of money. And so when I had my first income, my first working professional income, I found myself buying a lot of the things that I was always told we can't have because I was denied those things early on. So what I had to work through myself is, why am I buying them? Am I buying them because I want to, or am I buying them because I felt like I missed out on them? And my money mindset was a mindset of scarcity, where when dollars came in, either you didn't spend it at all because you didn't know if there were going to be many, or you spent it all recklessly because you don't know if it's going to come in again. So I had to reframe my mindset in the beginning. When we have clients that come in here, we first talk about how'd you grow up with money? Was it available? What were your purchase decisions? Who influenced your money decisions? So we can know what you're working with. And then we say, how much do you have? What's your income? How much do you spend? What are your expenses? Because the number that's left is really what you have to fund your goal. If I have a 6-figure income, if I make $100,000 a year, but I have $94,000 worth of expenses, you know, I got $6,000 left per year, but yet my car payment was financed on $100,000, my mortgage was financed on $100,000, everything was financed on a number that isn't realistic. So we want to start with how much you have coming in, how much do you have going out, and then how much do you have to fund your goal? And if there's nothing left over to fund your goal, before we start the planning process, we'll work to try to free up those dollars, whether that means canceling subscriptions, whether that means changing, you know, premiums from monthly to annual so you can reduce the expense, whether that means taking on a second job, doing whatever we can to free up the discretionary cash. So then we can actually start funding the goals and start the plan. So it's like we're training before the race. We're training just to get to the starting line of the race when we start the financial planning process.
That's a wonderful point. I know a lot of times my lenders have to kind of start there. You know, I mean, in real estate, step one is figure out how you're going to fund the house, right? So I don't do that. I help you with the house, but you have to figure out how to fund the house, which usually in this particular day and age, it's not typically cash. You know, it used to be back in the 50s and 60s, even the 70s, you know, a lot more people just paid cash. They saved up and then they bought the house a lot later in life, you know, because they'd save those pennies, work those goals, and then they'd just pay cash for a house later in life. And then nowadays, most of it's done on funding. So that's step one in a real estate transaction, is get over to the lender. but he's kind of in your same position, and that's not necessarily his role in life, but a lot of times he gets stuck trying to guide him into those goals of, well, I get it, you want a house, but looks like it's going to be a year down the road if you actually start focusing on this goal and taking care of your, get your credit score up and maybe getting some bills paid off or whatever, because he's barely touching on what your particular skill set is, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have you in the pipeline and get them all prepared, and then we could get them over to the lender and kind of make a progress, a little more seamless progress for them, instead of just throwing them in, because it always amazes me how many people out there don't even understand a lot of things the lender's telling him on what's a credit score and what did what happened? Why is mine so low? And
Yeah. No, that's so true. I mean, there's two things we tell people. Like, if we have someone that comes to us and wants to buy, depending upon the time frame they're out for the down payment, we try to get them practicing what it's going to cost to carry the house. So even if you're living at home with your parents, if you're renting an apartment, whatever the case may be, how much is your mortgage? How much are your utilities? How much are your janitorial and gardening going to cost? And then start creating a faux budget that they're funding automatically as though they're going to be living that life. So they're not having sticker shock when all those expenses come in. And if you do that for 6, 9, 12 months, not only do you save the down payment that's needed, but you've also gotten used to the lifestyle of what you're spending. So now that you're in the house, you can sustain it. Whereas a lot of times people will sacrifice to buy, get the down payment, and then they get into the home and they're surprised by how much it costs. Really, those expenses shouldn't surprise you. They should be into the plan already. And from a financial planning standpoint, we like to break things down simply from, price versus cost. The price of the home is what you pay for, but the cost of the home is what you pay minus the expenses plus the appreciation, right? Mm-hmm. So although the mortgage may seem higher, it could have a significantly lower cost when you factor in that future appreciation and so forth, and then try to make the prudent financial decision based on those factors. I mean, there's been times that it's like, okay, the mortgage is a little bit of a stretch. And I have real life example. I have a young couple that bought their first home 3 years ago, and the mortgage was a stretch, but they were committed to it. And then in the blink of an eye, they had $140K of equity in their home that they would not have had they stayed in the comforts of that rent. But financial
planning
for
somebody else's house, for him to have that 100,000 equity.
Yeah, and from a financial planning standpoint, we knew that the expenses were a stretch, but they were affordable as long as they were disciplined. They came in a little bit scared, but the financial planning number said you can afford this, you can do it. And then fast forward, they now have a net worth that they would not have had they not gone through that process. So it's just, we want to look at the big picture and not just stick with how much is it going to cost, but what's the price, but ultimately what's the cost, and then create a financial plan around taking care of the price, so that way you can get to that net cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you do a lot of day-to-day here. Here's whatever your goals are for your type of life in order to give you a happy, successful life. But then you take it kind of a step further. Now let's start planning for your future of what do you want to see your retirement look like?
Yeah, because I'm now in my 23rd year in this business, and I now have clients who started with me in the middle of their careers and have retired. And it's great to see it come full cycle. But what I've learned through that process is time doesn't wait for any of us. And so we think we have time, but it's going to be the blink of an eye. So we plan for today, but we simultaneously prepare for tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be here before we know it. If we put our hand in the sand,
I blinked a few times and all my kids was out of the house, and and I'm like, what do you mean I'm how old?
I got pictures of grandbabies on the wall, right? Where did they come from? So.
I just had a new grandbaby. So
hey, congratulations.
She's 2 weeks old now. So
yeah, no, we
how exciting is that though, to see that next generation come?
Well, that's the one thing I got to really incorporate in financial planning, because nobody, even myself, knew how expensive grandkids were, because you can't say no to them, right?
I know. So true. Yeah. And it's funny because we'd had never done that as a parent, but now It's like, oh yeah, come to grandma.
Yeah.
Okay, we're sending them back home now. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'll tell my daughter no without even any hesitation, but her children, I can't say no to them. It's funny how that just changes in one generation. But I wanted to kind of put a bow on that point you made that, yeah, we still want to look to the future, but future results are being planted by today's actions. So we spend a
Very
lot
good.
of time on the today, and then we regularly revisit today every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 36 months to make sure that if you're off course, you have time to correct it versus just saying, here's where you're going to be in 20 years. We'll revisit it in 20 years and we get there and we're completely off base.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
So how do they get a hold of you, Nathan, if they would like to utilize your service?
Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can call or text us at 559-431-7526, 559-431-7526. Or our website is www.appwealth.com. So www.applepaulpaul.com. And if you have any questions, if you just say, hey, I'm just thinking about doing this, what should I do? Shoot an email, shoot a text message. We can respond and point you in the right direction.
Very nice. And we'll include all the information in the article and different things. So
Great.
don't think you won't be able to get a hold of either one of us. And if you need to get a hold of Nathan, just get a hold of me and I'll shoot you over.
Yeah.
So everybody, it was wonderful having a chat with you, Nathan. I will catch everybody on the next one. My license number is 01997670. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.